A black single mom opened her cabin door on a freezing night. She never expected 25 outlaw bikers begging for shelter, but by sunrise, over 1,500 Hell's Angels surrounded her home. What happened next turned her act of kindness into a legend the world will never forget. It was the kind of night that could freeze your soul. The mountains of Montana were buried under snow, the wind howling like a wounded wolf. Inside a small wooden cabin on the edge of the forest, Maya Johnson, a 32-year-old single mother, sat by the fireplace with her 5-year-old son, Eli. The power had gone out hours ago. The only light came from the flickering flames reflecting off the wooden walls. Eli was bundled in 2 blankets, his curly hair damp from melted snow. Maya whispered softly, "It's okay, baby. We'll get through this storm like we always do." But then, a loud knock echoed through the cabin. Maya froze. It wasn't a friendly knock. It was deep, heavy, and desperate. Eli looked up, eyes wide. She grabbed the lantern, walked slowly to the door, and opened it halfway. The blast of cold air nearly knocked her back. Standing outside were men, 20, maybe more, covered in snow and leather. Their jackets bore a single symbol, a skull with wings and red flames. Behind them, engines rumbled faintly, headlights cutting through the storm. One man stepped forward. His beard was thick, his face weathered. He looked like he'd lived 100 winters. "Ma'am," he said, his voice deep but tired, "we ain't here for trouble. We just need a place to warm up. We're freezing out here. Been riding since dawn." Maya's heart raced. She'd heard about biker gangs before, news stories, troublemakers, criminals. But these men, they looked broken, exhausted. One of them was shivering so hard he could barely stand. "I have a child," Maya said cautiously. The leader nodded. "Understood. We'll stay outside if you want. Just need a bit of fire, Mom. Some warmth. That's all." Eli peeked from behind her coat, whispering, "Mommy, they look cold." Maya hesitated. Her instincts screamed danger, but her heart whispered compassion. She'd been there before, cold, hungry, desperate for someone's kindness. Finally, she opened the door wider. "Come in." But only a few at a time. The leader gave a grateful nod. "Name's Reed, ma'am. You're a good woman." Within minutes, the cabin filled with heavy boots, steam, and sighs of relief. The bikers sat quietly near the fire, removing their gloves, rubbing their hands together. One younger man whispered, "Ain't had heat in 2 days." Maya boiled a pot of water, poured it into cups, and passed around what little cocoa she had left. Eli sat beside her, watching the big men thaw out like frozen statues. "Didn't mean to scare you, ma'am," Reed said, his voice softer now. "We got caught in a whiteout. Lost our way. Most motels around here shut down." Maya nodded, still uneasy. "I understand. Just, please don't do anything to frighten my son." Reed gave a small, solemn smile. "You have my word. Nobody touches a thing in your house." The wind howled outside as the snow thickened. The bikers helped pile wood near the fireplace, took off their jackets, and quietly helped Eli's small kitten find warmth by the fire. The room, once filled with fear, began to hum with a strange peace. Hours passed. By midnight, 25 bikers were crammed into every corner, sleeping on the floor, leaning against walls, wrapped in old blankets Maya found in her closet. Eli dozed off on the couch, his head on Maya's lap. She looked around the room. Rough men with tattoos and scars, all sound asleep, faces softened by the firelight. She whispered to herself, what kind of woman invites 25 strangers into her home? But deep down, she knew the answer. A mother who understood what it felt like to be alone in the cold. As dawn broke, the storm began to fade. Maya rose early, stepping outside to breathe the frozen air. The mountain view was breathtaking, the snow glowing under the pale sun. Reed stepped out beside her, lighting a cigarette. "You didn't have to do what you did," he said quietly, "but you did it anyway. Not many people got that kind of heart." Maya smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm just foolish." Reed shook his head. "No, ma'am. You're brave." Then his radio crackled. He frowned, listened, then froze. His eyes darkened. "What is it?" Maya asked. Reed took a long breath. "Word must have spread. Our brothers heard what happened last night." She frowned. "And that's bad?" He sighed, looking out at the snow-covered road. "Depends how you see it. Because right now, ma'am, there's 1,500 Hell's Angels riding this way. They want to see the woman who sheltered us." Maya's breath caught. Eli stirred inside the cabin. The low rumble of engines echoed in the distance, soft at first, then louder, like thunder rolling down the valley. The quiet mountain morning was about to explode into history. The ground trembled before Maya even saw them. It began as a distant growl, the kind of sound that makes your chest vibrate. But within minutes it became a storm of engines echoing through the frozen valley. Maya stood on her porch, coat wrapped tightly around her, clutching Eli in her arms. The air was cold enough to sting her lungs, but the sight unfolding in front of her took away her breath entirely. Over the ridge, a river of headlights snaked down the snowy mountain road. Bikers, hundreds of them. The roar grew louder with every passing second, filling the air like thunder rolling across the sky. Inside the cabin, the 25 men she had sheltered last night rushed to the windows. Reed stepped outside beside her, his boots crunching on the ice. His face, usually calm and composed, carried a look of awe and warning. 1,500 riders, he muttered. I didn't think they'd all come. Maya turned sharply. Why are they here, Reed? He exhaled slowly, his breath a white cloud. To see you, to thank you, but also because some of them don't believe you did it out of kindness. Her stomach tightened. What do you mean? Some of these men live their whole lives being judged, hated, hunted. They think no one, especially someone like you, would ever open their door to us unless there was something in it for them. Maya frowned. Someone like me? Reed hesitated, realizing what he had implied. I didn't mean, you meant a black woman, she said quietly. Reed lowered his eyes. I meant someone decent in a world that's forgotten what that looks like. The rumble of engines grew deafening. A line of bikers now stretched across the valley, rows upon rows of leather jackets, chrome headlights, and waving flags. The emblem of the Hells Angels shone on every back, red and white against the snow. Eli gripped his mother's hand tightly. Mummy, are they coming to hurt us? Maya knelt, brushing his curls softly. No, baby. We helped people. And when you do good, sometimes the world just comes to see if it's real. Within minutes, the cabin was surrounded. The roar of engines stopped almost in unison, leaving an eerie silence. The air filled with the smell of oil, smoke, and cold steel. From the center of the crowd, a tall man with silver hair and a long beard rode forward on a massive Harley. His jacket was embroidered with the words, National President, Hells Angels. He stopped his bike just a few feet from Maya's porch, killed the engine, and stared at her through the frosty air. You're Maya Johnson? He asked, voice deep and gravelly. She nodded. Yes, sir. He looked around at the men standing behind her, the ones she had sheltered, and then back at her. Is it true? You took in 25 of my men last night? Yes, she said. They were freezing, hungry. I couldn't just close the door. He studied her for a long moment, then dismounted his bike. The crowd fell silent. You could hear the snow falling. Do you know who we are? He asked. I know enough, Maya replied, but I also know that people are people. Cold doesn't care about your colors or your club. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Reed stood beside her, silent, waiting for the reaction. The leader's expression didn't change. You've got courage, lady. You got any idea what it means to let 25 Hells Angels sleep under your roof? Maya smiled faintly. I didn't think about what it meant. I thought about what was right. For a long time, no one moved. Then the leader took a step forward and held out his hand. Name's Jack Grizzly Coleman, president of this whole club, and I ain't never seen anything like this before. Maya hesitated, then shook his hand. His glove was cold and rough, but his grip was firm, respectful. Grizzly turned toward his men and raised his voice. This woman, this mother, did something no one else would have done. While the world locks its doors on us, she opened hers. The crowd erupted in cheers and revving engines. Maya's eyes filled with tears as Eli hid his face against her shoulder, frightened by the noise. Grizzly raised his hand for silence. From this day forward, nobody, and I mean nobody, touches this woman or her boy. She's under our protection. Reed looked at Maya and smiled softly. Told you, ma'am. Brave, not foolish. But the moment of warmth didn't last long. As the engines cooled and the men began dismounting, Grizzly's lieutenant approached and whispered something in his ear. Grizzly's expression darkened immediately. What is it? Maya asked. He turned to her slowly. Somebody out here doesn't like what you did. Word is, a rival gang's on their way. They think you betrayed them by helping us. Maya's heart sank. What are you saying? Grizzly put his helmet back on, his eyes narrowing. I'm saying this ain't over yet. You saved our men, and now we're going to make sure nobody lays a finger on you, but get your boy inside, ma'am. It's about to get real dangerous out here. As Maya rushed Eli into the cabin, the engines roared again. The valley filled with the unified thunder of 1,500 bikes revving in defense, ready for a fight no one saw coming. The rumble in the valley was no longer just thunder. It was war drums on two wheels. From her cabin window, Maya Johnson could see the tension brewing outside. Snowflakes floated gently through the air, landing on black leather jackets, steel helmets, and cold chrome. But beneath that still beauty was chaos waiting to explode. 1,500 Hell's Angels stood ready in formation, engines revved like beasts chained in fury. And at the center of it all, Grizzly Coleman, the national president, barked commands with a calm that only men who'd seen war could understand. Maya held her son Eli close by the fireplace, her heart pounding. "What's happening, Mummy?" he asked, his little voice trembling. She knelt and brushed his curls softly. "Some bad people might be coming, baby, but we're not alone. Remember what I said last night?" Eli nodded slowly. "Help people when you can." Maya smiled faintly. "That's right, and sometimes the people you help you back." Outside, Reed approached Grizzly, face tense. "Scouts say the Iron Serpents are on their way up the mountain. About 50 riders. Armed." Grizzly clenched his jaw. "Figures. They think we're weak, because we took shelter with a woman and her kid. Let's show 'em what weakness really looks like." Reed hesitated. "Grizz, she doesn't deserve this. She's got a kid inside." Grizzly nodded. "And that's exactly why nobody's touching her. You keep your line tight. Nobody fires unless I say." Minutes later, the distant roar of another pack echoed through the pine-covered slopes. The Iron Serpents, a rival gang, burst through the fog, their black bikes streaked with red flames, their leader grinning through a cracked helmet. They stopped about 50 yards from the cabin, their headlights cutting through the snow like spotlights. Grizzly stepped forward. "You boys got lost? Are you just stupid enough to come looking for trouble?" Their leader, Rico, laughed. "Trouble? No, old man. We heard a sweet story. Heard the mighty Hell's Angels been hiding out in a black woman's cabin. Thought we'd come see the fairy tale for ourselves." A few of his men chuckled. Grizzly didn't smile. "Careful how you talk, Rico," he warned. "That woman saved 25% of my brothers last night. You show her disrespect, and I'll bury you in this snow." Rico sneered. "She helped you, not us. Makes her one of you now." He revved his engine, and his men followed. The noise was deafening, engines screaming like wild dogs. Eli screamed from inside. Maya rushed to the window, her breath fogging up the glass as she saw the two biker armies facing off in front of her home. "Reed!" she shouted through the half-open door. "Please, don't let this happen here." Reed turned, his face full of conflict. "Get inside, ma'am. Lock the door." But Maya didn't move. She stepped outside onto the porch, holding Eli behind her legs, the wind whipping her hair, her breath turning white in the freezing air. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the valley. Both sides froze for a second. Grizzly turned in shock. "Maya, get back inside." She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "No more fighting. Not for me. Not here." The rival leader laughed. "You think they'll listen to you, lady? These men live for blood." But Maya's voice didn't waver. "You think fighting proves strength? Look at you, all of you. You ride to survive, not to destroy. You think the cold cares about what patch you wear. You think my door cared about who you were when I opened." The snow fell heavier. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Grizzly slowly removed his gloves. "You heard her," he said firmly to his men. "Stand down." Rico frowned. "You serious?" Grizzly stepped closer, his eyes burning. "You think I'm going to let you turn a woman's home into a battlefield? You got another thing coming." For a tense moment, it seemed like Rico would strike. But something in Grizzly's stare made him stop. The man had earned his respect the hard way, through pain, loyalty, and blood. Rico spat in the snow. "This ain't over." He turned to his men. "Mount up." Engines roared again, fading slowly into the distance as the Iron Serpents disappeared into the mountain fog. Silence fell. You could hear the wind whistle through the trees again. Grizzly turned toward Maya, exhaling slowly. "Ma'am, I don't know what kind of angel you are, but you just stopped a war." Maya's lips trembled. "No, Mr. Coleman, you did. You listened." He gave a faint smile. Ain't many people I'd listen to. But when you opened that door last night, you showed us what real strength looks like." Eli tugged at his mother's coat. "Mommy, are they gone?" She nodded, kneeling down to hug him tight. "They're gone, baby. It's over." But Reed looked at Grizzly with concern. "It's not over, boss. Rico's not the kind to back off for long." Grizzly's smile faded. "Then we stay here for now. She gave us shelter when we needed it. Now it's our turn to protect her." As night fell once more over the snow-covered valley, the glow of hundreds of headlights surrounded Maya's cabin. The bikers formed a silent guard, rough men with hard pasts, standing in unity around the woman who had reminded them all what humanity still meant. The night after the standoff was eerily quiet. Snow drifted down from the black sky like falling ash. The once peaceful valley now looked like a war camp. Hundreds of bikes lined up in silent rows, their headlights off but their chrome gleaming in the moonlight. Inside the cabin, Maya Johnson sat by the dying fire, her son Eli asleep in her lap. She hadn't slept in over 24 hours. Every creak, every gust of wind made her heart jump. Outside, Reed and the other bikers kept watch. Grizzly Coleman, the president, stood alone by the road, his hands shoved deep in his coat pockets, scanning the darkness beyond the pines. He knew Rico wouldn't let it go. Men like him never did. Around midnight the sound came, faint at first, a low hum, then another, then dozens. Reed ran to the porch. "Grizz," he called out, "they're back." The engines multiplied, echoing off the mountains. This time there weren't 50, there were hundreds. The iron serpents had returned. And they weren't alone. Grizzly's jaw tightened. They brought backup. Reed nodded grimly. "Looks like at least 400 of them." The air thickened with dread. Maya peeked through the window, her heart pounding. "Oh my God," she whispered. "They're coming here." Reed turned. "Stay inside, ma'am. Don't come out this time." Maya clutched Eli tighter. "Please, don't fight here. You'll destroy everything." Grizzly looked at her from the doorway. His voice was low, calm, and final. "We don't start wars, ma'am. But we finish 'em if we have to." The valley erupted in the deafening roar of engines. Flames from exhausts lit up the snow. The iron serpents rolled in like a dark wave, circling the property. Their leader, Rico, pulled up front, sneering behind his visor. "Thought we'd come back and finish what we started," he shouted over the noise. "Ain't no woman gonna make fools out of us." Grizzly stepped forward, his voice booming. "You already made fools of yourselves when you showed up here." Rico laughed, drawing a pistol from his belt. "Then let's end this now." Before anyone could move, a gunshot cracked through the night. Snow exploded near Grizzly's boots. Engines roared, men shouted. For a split second, chaos hung in the frozen air, until a voice thundered from the distance. "Stand down!" All heads turned. From the tree line, black SUVs rolled in, unmarked, heavy, their lights cutting through the smoke and snow. A team of law enforcement officers stepped out, led by a tall woman in a long coat with a badge on her chest. "FBI!" she shouted. "Weapons down, now!" The bikers froze. Even Rico hesitated. The woman approached Grizzly. "We've been tracking both your clubs for months, but tonight—" She glanced at Maya standing on the porch, trembling. "Tonight we saw something we didn't expect." She turned to her agents. "You see that woman? She's the only one who showed real humanity here. She opened her door when everyone else slammed theirs." Maya's eyes widened. "How do you know about that?" The agent smiled faintly. "Because, ma'am, when you opened that door, one of those bikers sent a message to our frequency. He said, and I quote, 'There's still good left in this world.'" All eyes turned to Reed. He looked down, embarrassed. "Figured someone should know what kind of woman you were." Maya felt tears sting her eyes. "You told the FBI about me?" He shrugged. "Didn't mean no harm, ma'am. Just wanted folks to know not everyone out here's heartless." The FBI surrounded the rival gang, disarming them quickly. Rico resisted for a moment, but was slammed to the ground by two agents. Grizzly watched silently as the chaos died down, the roar of engines replaced by the hum of radio chatter. When the last handcuffs clicked, the agent turned to Grizzly. "You've done enough, Coleman. Walk away. Tonight's not your war." Grizzly nodded. "It never was." He turned to Maya, his leather jacket dusted with snow. "Ma'am, I reckon you saved more lives than you'll ever know." Maya smiled softly. "I didn't save anyone. I just opened a door." He chuckled. "Sometimes, that's the hardest thing in the world to do." By dawn, the valley was quiet again. The FBI trucks rolled away with their captives. The Hells Angels began to mount their bikes, preparing to leave. Reed stopped by the porch. "We'll never forget what you did, Miss Johnson." He reached into his jacket pocket and handed her a small patch, their emblems stitched in red and white. "What's this?" she asked. "Our mark of respect," Reed said. "You ever need anything, anywhere, show this, and you'll have 1,500 brothers watching your back." Maya looked at the patch, her hands trembling. "I don't know what to say." Grizzly started his engine. "Don't say nothing, ma'am. You already said it with what you did." As the bikes roared to life, Eli ran onto the porch waving. "Bye, Mr. Reed. Bye, Mr. Grizzly." Reed smiled, lifting a hand in farewell. "You keep taking care of your mama, little man." Then, one by one, the riders disappeared down the icy road, a river of chrome and thunder heading back into the horizon. Maya stood there, holding the patch close to her heart, watching until the last engine faded away. The snow was falling again, soft and clean, covering every scar in the earth. She looked down at Eli, smiling through her tears. "You see, baby? Sometimes kindness looks small, but it echoes farther than we can imagine." Eli hugged her waist. "Like the sound of their bikes?" She laughed softly. "Exactly like that. The camera would fade here, a mother and son standing in the snow, surrounded by silence and light, the echo of 1,500 engines still rolling through the mountains, carrying her story